The following is a HennessyHendo production. It includes excerpts and material from my vast collection of books and general knowledge. Please share the videos. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Part 5. Other forms of misconduct, disinformation, experiments, and psychological operations. Beyond these categories, the CIA has engaged in a range of other unethical activities, including disinformation campaigns, dubious human experimentation, and covert psychological operations on unwitting targets. These actions often betrayed fundamental principles of truth and human dignity. Propaganda and disinformation. Operation Mockingbird. During the Cold War, the CIA infiltrated media organizations to shape public opinion and spread propaganda. The agency cultivated a network of journalists and editors in major outlets. Some 400 American journalists secretly worked with or for the CIA by the 1970s. They provided intelligence, planted stories, or skewed news in favor of CIA narratives. This effort, loosely referred to as Operation Mockingbird by historians, meant that respected news organizations sometimes unknowingly published CIA scripted information, especially abroad but at times in US media as well. For example, the CIA would covertly fund foreign newspapers or broadcasters to run anti-communist propaganda or pro-American coverage. It also placed reporters on its payroll to report from global hotspots. Domestically, the CIA's use of journalists came under heavy criticism once exposed. It erodes a free press's credibility if reporters are seen as covert agents. In 1976, George H.W. Bush, then CIA director, announced a policy to limit this practice. Nonetheless, disinformation has remained a CIA tool, from publishing fake stories to influence elections overseas, to creating front organizations, like magazines and student groups during the cultural Cold War. Such deception campaigns are considered unethical because they manipulate truth and violate the public's right to accurate information. They can also backfire by spreading conspiracy theories and undermining trust in the media. Project MKUltra, mind control experiments. Perhaps the most disturbing CIA program on US soil was MKUltra, a secret project, 1953 to 1973, in which the CIA conducted illegal human experiments in an effort to develop mind control techniques. Under MKUltra, the agency gave LSD and other psychoactive drugs to unwitting subjects, including hospital patients, prisoners, and even random civilians, to study altered mental states. They also used electroshock therapy, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, and abuse to try to break individuals' wills. Many victims were traumatized for life. At least 2 died, one being Dr. Frank Olson, a CIA scientist covertly dosed with LSD who later fell to his death under suspicious circumstances. The program, run by the CIA's technical services staff under Sidney Gottlieb, sought ways to make prisoners confess or turn captured spies into brainwashed double agents. Consent was almost never obtained, and the experiments often had no medical supervision, a clear violation of bioethics and the Nuremberg Code. In Canada, CIA-funded psychiatrist Ewan Cameron performed devastating psychic driving experiments on patients, e.g. massive electroshocks and drug-induced comas, in the 1950s, causing permanent damage. MKUltra was eventually exposed in 1975, shocking the public. The program was condemned as a prime example of CIA abuse of power and extreme disregard for human rights. Most files were destroyed on orders of CIA Director Richard Helms in 1973, so full accountability was never achieved. The US government quietly settled some lawsuits with Canadian victims. To this day, MKUltra stands as a cautionary tale of how intelligence agencies can cross ethical lines in the name of national security, science. Biological and chemical experiments. Related to MKUltra, the CIA also explored using biological agents and toxins. Projects like MK Naomi in the 1960s developed poison delivery devices, e.g. a toxin-loaded dart gun. The CIA researched substances to induce deadly diseases covertly. In one notorious incident, 1950, the CIA and Army released a harmless bacterial cloud over San Francisco to test aerosol dispersion. Soon after, a local man died of a rare infection, raising questions about the test's safety. There were also plans to poison or drug Cuban leader Fidel Castro, using thallium to make his beard fall out, or LSD to make him behave erratically, for propaganda effect. These schemes were more absurd than effective, but they illustrate a willingness to weaponize biology and psychology in unethical ways. Psychological warfare operations. The CIA has carried out many psyops to influence targets' minds and morale. For example, in the Vietnam War, the CIA's Phoenix program, 1968 to 1972, combined assassination with psychological terror to neutralize Viet Cong suspects. Phoenix teams interrogated, often brutally, and killed thousands of Vietnamese, sometimes purely on suspicion. This campaign instilled fear in villagers but also killed many innocents and became infamous for its excesses. Another example, in the early 1950s, the CIA staged false flag incidents and spread fake prophecies in Guatemala to intimidate supporters of President Orben's, part of the coup described above. The agency even considered staging fake alien sightings as a distraction, per some eccentric Cold War plans. While some psychological operations were relatively mild, like balloon drops of propaganda leaflets, others crossed ethical lines by subjecting populations to fear, trauma, or deception on a massive scale. Destruction of evidence and obstruction, a form of misconduct often overlooked, is the CIA's habit of covering up its misdeeds. For instance, in 2005, despite court orders, the CIA destroyed videotapes of harsh interrogations of al-Qaeda detainees, an act seen as obstruction of justice. Similarly, the CIA long hid details of its coups and assassination plots from presidents and Congress, using euphemisms and plausible deniability. This lack of transparency and accountability is an ethical failing in itself, as it subverts the democratic oversight of intelligence agencies. Only decades later, through declassification or whistleblowers, do many of these truths come to light. Additional unethical activities that could be mentioned include CIA involvement in electoral interference, covertly funding or sabotaging political parties in foreign democratic elections, e.g. Italy in 1948, Chile in 1970, economic warfare, like secretly manipulating currencies or commodity supplies to hurt adversary economies, which harms civilian populations, and indiscriminate paramilitary actions, such as the use of drone strikes post-2001 in countries where the US is not officially at war, though that involves Pentagon too, leading to civilian casualties and questions of legality. Conclusion: the historical record of CIA misconduct is extensive and has prompted numerous official inquiries, from the Church Committee in the 1970s to the Senate Torture Report in 2014. In many cases, these revelations led to reforms. Assassination was banned by executive order, congressional oversight of covert actions was strengthened, and guidelines for humane treatment of detainees were issued. Despite this, the CIA's dual nature, tasked with defending national security but often operating in secrecy and without transparency, means the temptation to engage in unethical conduct persists. Each of the categories above demonstrates a common thread: ends were used to justify means, and those means frequently violated core values and laws. The consequences have been profound, not only for the victims around the world but for the United States' moral standing. Understanding this dark side of CIA history is crucial in order to prevent its repetition and to demand accountability and adherence to the rule of law in intelligence work.
Thank you for watching. Please share the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Check out other series including 10-minute synopses or complete audiobooks on HennessyHendo on YouTube. Improve your vocabulary. Be more fun at parties. Increase your knowledge. Become a literary master like Hendo.